All right. We're back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. We're still sitting in front of the Floyd wall because we got a little bit of a theme going on just for today and the end of the week. I think we're going to be talking different types of Floyd material. You're welcome. Hope you're all doing well. Today is Monday, September 7th. Yesterday, Ferg's 80th birthday. Nice celebration for Ferg. He approved my message. Also, I think yesterday, I didn't say anything, but I'm pretty sure yesterday was the 150th episode of Song of the Day. Right about now. That's pretty cool too, right? So, what's going on today? Well, two things happened on this date, different years, involving Roger Waters and Pink Floyd. So I had to kind of pick between the two, but we'll talk about both. On this date in 1987, Pink Floyd released their album A Momentary Lapse of Reason, and that's what we're going to talk about today for the most part. Also, on this date in 92, Roger Waters released another solo album, Amused to Death. I do like that record. I particularly like What God Wants, which was really the only one that you heard from that record. But there was some other good stuff in there. But there is a song, that song in there is actually quite good, and I'll probably post it below. Just because we're mixing things up a little bit today. But that's a pretty strong record from him. And his journey into politics continued as far as that's concerned. But we're talking Momentary Lapse of Reason because that's a bigger topic for me. Now remember, that was the first album without Roger Waters, 1987. Now remember that Roger Waters officially left the band in 1985, although he had completed his solo record Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking with Eric Clapton in 84. And David Gilmour had done his solo album About Face in 84 as well. So the band had come off a Final Cut, which is really, many considered a Roger Waters solo record. And that's the direction they were going in. Now they were fighting over the name of the band, the use of the band. Roger did not want them to use the name of the band, and so they fought about that for that whole year. Momentary Lapse of Reason, remember it came out, and just like when Van Halen split, you had people who just said, Roger Waters is not there, it's not Pink Floyd. And to this day, on Threads, you'll still see that. So that's kind of interesting. But and I agree that to some extent it would be nice to have them all together, and that some of the songs the other person sings and vice versa. So when you see them on tour, especially when you see Roger Waters on tour, the ones that you can tell that the songs that David Gilmour sang, when they're not being sung by him. And so to some extent, I understand that. But on its own right, this is a great record. It's one of my favorite records by any band, and I was quick to embrace it when it came out. It was recorded on his houseboat, David Gilmour's houseboat, called the Astoria, which was a houseboat built in 1911, and it sits on the Thames River. He pretty much holed up in this thing and did a lot of the stuff all by himself. A lot of the writing, a lot of the instruments, pretty much a ton of it. And the record came out. Didn't know what to expect because the solo tour for him as well didn't go over quite as expected. So when he brought the band back together, they were still fighting over the name of the band with Roger Waters. And really, they had to kind of piece that all together when they were trying to figure out. He had written the stuff, had recorded the stuff, then the band comes in and they're trying to figure out where they fit. So it was a little hectic. So they decided to tour before the album was done. Now keep in mind for that, they hadn't toured live, they hadn't played live together since 1981, so 6 years without performing. So they're a little rusty when they got things started, as far as that's concerned. But it turned out it was the highest grossing concert in the United States that year and the second highest grossing in the world, so they did just fine with that. It produced a live album, Delicate Sound of Thunder. The only thing that kept them from going to number one in the United States were Michael Jackson's Bad and Whitesnake's Whitesnake's self-titled album. They finally settled the lawsuit by Christmas of that year, so they could continue. Roger Waters ended up with retained the rights to the wall and to the image of the pig. So I guess Pink Floyd, they still were able to use the pig. I don't know. They what they did is they just put male genitalia on their pig and said that's a different pig than Roger Waters' pig. So anyway, so this record comes out, and I remember it distinctly because I remember people were just saying, well, it doesn't sound like the rock and roll of Pink Floyd that we're all used to. So there was some pushback there, but I just treated it like a different record, and I really liked the music. We're going to back up for a minute just because I do have, as I mentioned, I do have a Pink Floyd shirt on. I brought them down. We do have some choices for just Floyd shirts here. The most of my collection are here. I'm unsatisfied with my choices for complete Pink Floyd t-shirts. I even had one made that I made up my own, quoting one of my favorite songs from The Wall is Young Lust, and so I got that on the front, and then a little PF79 on the back. That's pretty cool. Anyway, so I really like this record a lot. It grew on me pretty quick, and then the instrumental parts and some of the non-single parts, I just really liked this record. It was just great. So I did get to see them in concert. It was my first stadium concert, Sullivan Stadium, the Patriot Stadium, Foxborough, May of 1988. I don't know if I've told this story before, but I went with Bert Davis, Craig Weed, who else was in there? Damian Frasinelli. There was a few other people there, Gary. Anyway, we went in a van, went down there and set up a barbecue as we usually do when you go there. Go to get into the stadium, and one of us tried to sneak a beer in. One single beer, got busted. And he was told, they took his ticket and told to turn away. Now he wasn't going to get in, but we had one extra ticket, and we were trying to sell it in the parking lot, and we ended up not selling it. So we slipped him the extra ticket, and he got in. This show, we were up in the rafters, of course, and open air stadium, but you know what I mean. But the attendance was 89,000 people, so that was just really incredible. I had never seen a crowd that big before. It was just amazing. And this concert with the lights and the light show, and the pig comes out, inflatable giant 60-foot inflatable pig over the crowd. The show we saw, the pig malfunctioned and wouldn't come back. And it was stuck out in the middle, and it started deflating. And during the show, they kept playing, and then sure enough, you see a guy just shimmying out on the wire over the crowd, way up there to fix the motor on the pig. It's crazy. But I was just in awe of this performance. It's one of the best concerts I've ever seen. I couldn't believe it, what I was witnessing. It was just amazing. So let's talk about the track listing on this. We got Signs of Life, Learning to Fly, of course. That's the main single. That's a great song. The Dogs of War, awesome. I mean, just awesome. One Slip, On the Turning Away. These are all great songs, right? Yet Another Movie. Then we're getting into some of the quieter stuff, some of the instrumentals. Round and Around, A New Machine Part 1, Terminal Frost, New Machine Part 2, and Sorrow. So I really like Learning to Fly. That's the one that everyone pretty much likes, but that's not my song of the day. I would probably choose Dogs of War up there. I really like Dogs of War. I mean, what a great song. And then One Slip. I think Dogs of War is probably my second favorite. I haven't mentioned my favorite yet, but Dogs of War is awesome. I might play both. We'll see. But my favorite song on this record by far is Sorrow. You probably don't know that song, but Sorrow is just an unbelievable song. I don't know, some people don't really care for it, but I just think this thing, it's not his most prolific as far as lyrics are concerned, but what a performance live. What a song. It's amazing. I mean, it was recorded, the guitar in the beginning was recorded in LA in the stadium there. They piped their music, their instruments, and their sound system into the middle of the stadium, and that's where you get that echo from. They weren't really satisfied with the remastering and the production of this record for years, so they finally put out what they thought was they did some of the drums over. It's the same what they did it, It's the same drums, or maybe they had some of the drumming repeated for just some of these performances. But anyway, they just put out this massive box set. It's the biggest box set I think I've ever had. It's called The Later Years. It's heavy. It's massive. It's got DVDs, Blu-rays, CDs. It's incredible. But the remastered of Momentary Lapse of Reason and the remastered particularly of Delicate Sound of Thunder is just so good. I mean, the DVD is amazing, the Blu-ray. But Sorrow, I just love this song. And the opening lines were taken from John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath, but the rest is all Gilmore. So if you don't know Sorrow, give it a chance, give it a listen. We're going to put the new remastered version, the new recut version on there, and then maybe we'll do the live version just so you can see what I'm talking about. But what a show, what a song, what a band. Loving it. We're going to take a break from Floyd the next few days, but we'll be back on Saturday with that. We got some good stuff coming up. We got some good bands and some good records coming up this week. So stick with me. We're at 11 minutes. We're going long this week. Have a great rest of your Labor Day. Enjoy it. And as usual, I'll catch you on the flip side.